because they hold the bucks, right? The purse strings. They can go and will go to someone else if I, get too stubborn about it, right? Okay, so again, focusing on the other party's concerns more than your own, trying to preserve the relationship at all costs, focusing on issues that you and the other party agree on, rather than those issues of disagreement. So if you recognize that you're in a position where you have no economic power, okay, now these are the kinds of things you ought to consider. Okay, why would they want to hire me? Okay, do I, beyond maybe the dollar amount that I'm charging, is there anything that I can offer that, I'm reliable, is there something else that I can say that gives them a benefit that they would want to differentiate me from the other guy that maybe charges 5 cents less, right? Okay, the compromising style, splitting the difference, giving up something for something in return, taking an intermediate position, roughly halfway between the expectations, perchance. Okay? Give you another example. I was bidding a project, and this was to renovate an old high school, very large old high school, into a community college. Okay? Massive renovation, additions to the facility, all kinds of things going on. Okay? Written in the specifications was the clause that stated that the carpet was going to be supplied by the client and would be installed by the contractor. In fact, I think it was supplied and installed by the client, but would be assigned to the project. What had happened is every year the state of Utah would negotiate a contract for all of their facilities, for all carpet, so that they would get economies of scale. Okay? And so they were going to take advantage of that and assign that to the contract. Well, so about the last 15 minutes of the bid, I get a call from someone that suggests that they are the carpet supplier, and that I'm to include $300,000 in my bid for the carpet. What's wrong with that? What?
The client's supposed to be doing
Yeah, this is in contrast to what it says in the contract documents, right? Okay, so now I'm in a pickle, right? I got a bid to turn in. It's hard dollar, right? And I got to decide, what am I going to do? I got this, I don't even know if this guy is real or if he's my competitor calling to try to bump me out of the way and get my contract not to be accepted because I'm $300,000 higher, right? I don't know who this guy is. On the other hand, I have some notice that something's going on. I could try to call the architect and figure out what's going on, but what are my competitors going to do? Okay, so, there's nothing quite so quantified as a bid, right? I own the company with a partner. I put in my bid, okay? I added $35,000 to deal with it and did not add the $300,000. Okay, I'm low bidder. Now, I get after the bid, I start saying, oh, well, okay, now, what do I do with this carpet thing, right? I'm going to sign the contract. So I call a lawyer. I know when it's time to call a lawyer, right? I call a lawyer and I say, okay, what do we do with this? Explain the whole situation to him. He says, well, what you do is you lay low. You go ahead and sign the contract. You're clearly in the right, but there may be some deal to be able to work your way through this. So you lay low until such time as there's any possibility of giving the contract to another contractor. Because what's going to happen is the client or the architect's going to call up another contractor and he said, well, have you got the 300,000 in? I go back and tell him before I sign the contract that I don't have the 300,000 and forget about that noise, right? First thing he does, get on the phone and find out if anybody else has got it. Oh yeah, I got it on there, right? If it's worth eating 300,000 or whatever they did put in the contract to do it. Okay, so you don't want to do that. And then you just wait for things to materialize on the client side. And so we did. About 6 months down the road, architect starts making movements about, hey, we've got to, what about this carpet thing? And I say, well, we did exactly what was called for in the contract. We didn't put it in there. Well, what do you mean you didn't put it in there? I told so-and-so to call you and tell you to put it in there. And then I explained to him contract law, right? He's not buying it. Client's not buying it. State of Utah. Client's not buying it, right? Okay, so we got a conflict going on, right? And now we got to go into negotiations. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of Bob-Patty philosophy on negotiations, okay? There's two kinds of lawyers in the world, okay? There are what I call scrappers, okay? This is epitomized by a picture on my other kind of lawyer's wall, okay? The other kind of lawyer is the trusted corporate advisor, okay? Scrapper, trusted corporate advisor, okay? Depending on what you're doing, you may need one or you may need both, okay? So on his wall is a picture, okay? Great big old picture. It's a picture of a cow. Big lawyer's office, okay? Walk in the front room or into the lobby and there's a big picture of a cow, okay? Now this cow is very active. There is a banker pulling on the horns of the cow as hard as he can. On the tail of the cow is the farmer. And he's pulling as hard as he can on the tail of the cow, right? The thing, okay, and the picture is labeled the suit. Now, sitting down underneath the cow, calmly milking the cow, is who?
We don't have
The lawyer. Exactly. Okay? There you go. As long as you're willing to fight, he's willing to milk your cow, right? That's a scrapper. Okay? You want to scrap? We'll scrap, right? Okay, now on the other hand, there is a trusted corporate advisor. Okay? This is an individual who you can trust to not only see your side of the story, but to look down the road to see the other guy's side of the story, which you may have so much emotion involved, justify your behavior that you may miss or not recognize fully. And he can look down the road with experience and say, if you take this action, decide to sue them, or whatever action it is that you're considering, this is the likely outcome of that action. See the difference? Okay, so I go in to talk with, I'm not getting redress of grievances out of the client, the project manager, director of the construction department for the state of Utah, right? He wants me to pay the $300,000. I don't want to pay it. So I asked both of those attorneys to go with me. So I show up in the office of the manager of projects at the state of Utah with both attorneys on my sleeve, right? And he says, whoa, I didn't think this was going to be a formal discussion here. He wanted to just beat me up, right? Tell me I had to do it. Well, So I explained to him what was going on. First thing he wants to do is get his lawyer. Who is the lawyer for the state of Utah? Representing this kind of thing. Exactly. Very good. The state attorney general. Okay? That's exactly what we wanted to happen, because we knew darn good and well that we were right legally and they were wrong, right? So if they don't believe us, we want their attorney to tell them they're wrong, right? So here comes the state attorney general down to meet with us. We go through the issue. This state attorney general, he just started laughing. He said to his client, "You're crazy. You have no case." And the client gets really angry. He says, "Wait a minute, you're supposed to be defending me, not these guys. This is a contractor." So he's not accepting his own attorney general's responsibility, okay? So anyway, he wants some time to think about it. Okay? Now, at the meantime, somewhere in the negotiations there, now this was the second time we went in. Okay, we go back to talk with him because he wants to belly up to the bar. He wants to negotiate. Okay, so we go in there, and my respected attorney, the corporate, attorney that was really a good corporate advisor, he says to me, he says, "Bob, if this goes to suit, there's going to be a jury. The jury will be composed of women." I said, "What do you mean, of women?" "Yes, it will be composed of housewives." And I said, "Why? What are you talking about? Why will housewives compose this jury?" And he says, "Because they're the ones that are available when they select juries." And he says, housewives hate construction companies. They think you make way too much money and that somehow you're not honest. Okay? So just so you know, that is the kind of jury you're going to be trying to convince that you're right and they're wrong. Okay? So, there's no moral issue about that. There's just, here's the way he perceives it and what he's telling me. Okay? So I say, okay. So I get an offer of about $100,000 to settle the issue. You pay $100,000 and we'll go forward. I said, "No, that's too high." And I went back with an offer of $35,000, which is what I actually included in the bid. Okay? To deal with it. And he accepted that, and we went on with the contract. Okay? So just, there's a lot of maybe principles that you can take from that, I hope. Okay? Stand back and say, when do you need a lawyer? What kind of lawyer do I want? Do I want a scrapper that's just mean as, an alley cat? Or do I want a trusted corporate advisor, or do I need both? One to advise me and the other to scrap when I need him to scrap. Okay? All right. Then there's the collaborating style. And if sustained over a long period, this can result in trust, unity, and the highest rate of improvement and benefit. Okay? Looking for creative solutions that make both parties winners, bringing issues or concerns into the open, seeking to satisfy the need of both parties, exchanging information and ideas freely. Okay? That's not always appropriate. There wasn't any collaborative thing that I could do with the state of Utah at that point. Somebody was going to win, somebody was going to lose, right? It was a matter of where are we going to draw the line between it and go on with the project. Okay? but many times it is appropriate and ought to be pursued in earnest. Okay? So you choose when to negotiate. Choose your battles and your relationships. Determine what you want ahead of time, some limits. Why you should the other party negotiate with you? Identify their interests. What are your alternatives if negotiations fail to do what needs to happen? Okay? Look, get somebody in there if you can't. I mean, you got to understand when you're so involved emotionally that you may not make rational decisions. And bring somebody in that isn't so involved. Okay? That's where your trusted corporate advisor can come into play. Maybe it's another partner in your organization. Okay? Where no egg is being pointed at him. Does that make sense? Okay, well that's all the time allotted to me at present. So, enjoy it.